When you're sitting there interviewing Putin and you don't plan to challenge his utter bullshit, but you don't want to really be that obvious, what do you do with your face? Oh, I see. Okay, so it's not really a straight face as much as you try to convey a mixture of what appears to be shame, arousal, and I'm going to say irregularity. For instance, like you're constipated while off to a Sears catalog. Been there, haven't you? We got up there.
I think when you look back at youth, at people that you used to watch on TV, I know my audience kind of is all over the place in terms of age. Some people are in their, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. But for me, I remember growing up watching Jon Stewart, for example, or looking at people, who's that, the intellectual dark web guy that ended up totally embarrassing himself with TDS, Sam Harris. I think you find a little bit as you get older that most of these people are midwits. They're not very smart. They have teams of writers. They're not, they're not intelligent. And most of all, they hate you. Well, Jon Stewart, who, as far as I know, has never done any actual real investigations. Now, I will say he's done some great work with, the firefighters, with the 9/11 stuff. I think, I must applaud that. But last week, his show returned and he got some criticism. This week, he returned again and whined and complained about Tucker Carlson, pointing out that certain areas in Russia, for example, their subway or their grocery stores were nice. Now, I will admit, I thought it was a little, I love Tucker, okay, I do. But the whole, wow, I'm in Russia and look how affordable groceries are. Well, I mean, if Tucker Carlson went to any third world country, he would be shocked at how cheap things are, too. So that was a weird bit. And the whole oh, you put something in the grocery cart. I mean, all these grocery stores have been doing that forever. So there's nothing about the grocery store bit that really worked for me. But I think the bigger argument, that he talked about is he said, look at their subway system and how clean it is and how nice it is. Well, Jon Stewart had an absolute meltdown over pointing this out and claimed that our subway system, where people are getting pushed in front of the train every day or where there's needles on the ground, homeless people, this kind of stuff. He says that is simply the price of freedom. The price of freedom. Now, I guess I want to go back. I don't know technically, to correct my statement on Russia, I don't know technically where they would rate. They're probably somewhere between first and third world. They're probably third world areas, just like there are in the United States. But anyway, I digress. You're in Russia. I'm not surprised that groceries were cheap. I don't know. Certain things probably are. Certain things probably aren't. So Jon Stewart returned and whined that people criticized him. Now, I will give him credit. He basically does point out a very, accurate thing in that Joe Biden is extremely old and any idiot can see that. But that's all he said. He didn't criticize Joe Biden's policies. He didn't criticize Joe Biden's decision making. He just said the dude's old and probably, we should talk about that. He didn't say he shouldn't be president. He didn't say that people should vote for Trump instead of him. He did none of those things. At no point did Jon Stewart endorse, Donald Trump or any of these things.
Welcome to the Daily Show.
So he talks about coming back. I'm not going to use this whole clip.
Am I a cyborg? Come on. But I don't mind because was universally glowing.
Jon Stewart is facing massive backlash from Democrats over his comments about Joe Biden. Oberman tweeted, well, after 9 years away, there's nothing else to say to the both side is fraud Jon Stewart bashing Biden, except please make it another 9 years. Chris.
You notice how, now I don't know if, well, Hollywood News actually did this, probably not Jon Stewart. They cut off the interactions because I suspect most of the interactions on Keith Olbermann's tweet were like, wow, a broken clock is right twice a day kind of thing. You know, that kind of thing. But they cut off how the interactions, how many tweets and stuff like that. It's wild. But anyway.
Steve Jackson tweeted, sorry, but I won't be watching you either.
Okay. Maybe not universal. But that was on Twitter. Everything on Twitter gets a backlash. I've seen Twitter tell labradoodles to go themselves.
I mean, that is probably true. That is true.
Labradoodles. I just think it's better to deal head on with what's an apparent issue to people. I mean, we're just talking here.
And Mary Trump tweeting, not only is Stewart's both sides are the same rhetoric not funny, it's a potential disaster for democracy.
It's one f***ing show! It was just one f***ing show!
So essentially, a lot of people gave a bunch of feedback to which Jon Stewart simply said, look, I just said what I saw, right? I get that. So even the Democrats don't care for him. But then he went on to get really mad at Tucker Carlson for his bit about Russian grocery stores.
The difference between our urinal chaotic subways and your candelabred beautiful subways is the literal price of freedom.
So in Jon Stewart's world, freedom means getting stabbed in the subway. That's what it is. Freedom means having people like take a dump in the subway. By the way, these are all things that we've seen on the internet happen. There's innumerable videos of people getting pushed in front of the trains every week. So he's mad that, you know, I admit that, you know, the grocery store bit maybe didn't hit that hard, but look at all these articles. Jon Stewart slams Tucker Carlson, Putin. Does anybody even care about Putin, the Putin interview anymore? It's done. It's over with. There's also this insane claim that is being made by the left, by Jon Stewart, that I want to address. I wonder if it's in the clip here. Essentially, Jon Stewart says that everybody loves Putin because he's anti-woke. And that people on the right are so stupid that just because Putin is anti-woke, that we love Russia, or that, you know, that people that commentate on Putin being anti-woke must love Putin, must love, Russia. That's not, that's just the narrative that the left is saying. Oh, you're all useful idiots because you point out that maybe. By the way, I can't say I saw. I guess I'll have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure I read that Ukraine canceled their upcoming election. I'm not sure if that's totally true or not. So, I want to say, I only saw that floating around on the internet, but if that's true, we're supporting somebody who's suspending their elections. Anyway, if you even entertain the idea that maybe Ukraine is, not perfect in every conceivable way, the left is painting you as some sort of Putin fan. I nothing him. I don't ever think about Putin. I never think about him. But what I do know is that one of these people canceled an election, I'm pretty sure. That doesn't seem very democratic. And we're sending them our money? We're sending our money to a nation that, canceled the next election. Think about that. And they're saying Putin's the bad guy. It's perhaps true that both are bad. Zelensky has also outlawed opposing political parties. This is something that Jon Stewart doesn't talk about. Jon Stewart opened his monologue on The Daily Show talking about, how he got criticism for talking about how old Joe Biden is, blah, 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 blah. Stewart then transitioned to his main segment of the night, which was former Fox News host Tucker Carlson's interview with the Russian president. Way to be late to the party. Step one, lie about what your job is, not journalism, as Carlson claimed. And what your duty is, not to inform people other, as Carlson claimed. Freedom of speech is our birthright. We were born with the right to say what we believe. Then he writes, he said, disguise your deception and capitulation to power is noble and moral and based in freedom, Stewart said. I mean, the idea is, Stewart then goes on to say, here's the reality. You effing know all of this because you aren't as dumb as your face would have us believe, Stewart continued, addressing Carlson directly. Perhaps if your handlers had allowed, you would have seen that there's a hidden fee to your cheap groceries and orderly streets. Ask Alexei Navalny or any of his supporters. Well, I mean, again, watch how Jon Stewart now claims that if you have a problem with, Ukraine, if you say anything but Russia universally bad, you are some sort of Russian bot. Stewart theorized that it's because the old civilization battle between communism and capitalism has shifted. Quote, now they think the battle is woke versus unwoke, and that in that fight, Putin is an ally to the right. He's their friend, he said. Unfortunately, he's also a brutal and ruthless dictator, so now they have to make Americans a little more comfortable with that. I mean, liberty is nice, but have you seen Russia's shopping carts? Essentially outright saying that Tucker Carlson is working for Putin, to make America like Russia or something. Here's what I'll say. I think if you can look at what Putin is doing to, journalists held there, political prisoners that are held there, what he is doing to a ballerina who donated $51 to a fundraiser, I think most people can look at that and think, Putin's probably not a cool dude. All right. Most people are probably pretty aware that I think most conservatives, even people who watch Tucker Carlson, would rather not talk about any of this. Nobody wants to give a damn about Russia. Let them sell their oil and stay out of our business. I'm sure that, because of now, he could have went about this fairly, but he isn't interested in that. They're all afraid of Tucker Carlson. I did not watch, you tell me what you think. I did not watch the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin and think, wow, that's a cool dude. I really like him now. I think it was like, okay, he's probably just saying his side of the argument, which may or may not be true, but at least we hear it versus hearing from Zelensky, who is a crook. Being an authoritarian generally is not, rocking with the, progressivism. But again, I'm not here to say he's good or bad. I'm just saying I'd like to keep my money in the United States. And I would like it if people like Jon Stewart wouldn't communist jacket Putin jacket anybody who says, hey, the guy should have he should be able to tell his side. But that's what the media does. Oh, if you watch the interview, you must support Putin. I don't support Putin, and I don't support Zelensky, and I don't want either one of them getting my money. Is that crazy? Jon Stewart returned after 9 years away just to do the same crap bidding for the DNC that he did when he was in the seat in the first place. Everyone's going to move on. You watch, Jon Stewart's ratings will go back down. People will move on because it's the same old crap.